OCR GCSE Computer Science, Episode 22, Network Security Threats. In this video, we'll be covering a lot of content, so all of the threats alongside the prevention methods. So stay tuned in and let's get on. Threats. The first one being spyware. So what is spyware? Spyware is something that secretly monitors the user's actions, for example, your key presses, and it then sends this information to the hacker. Now, sometimes it can be useful, for example, you could be typing in your password. The next one is viruses. Now, I'm sure you've heard of a virus before. This is it's a specific type of malware that tries to access your device. It attaches itself to files by copying themselves, for example, on certain files like exe and auto-run scripts. And the users then spread these viruses by copying the infected files and then activating them by opening up these infected files. Now, the next thing to look at is worms. Worms are similar to viruses, but they self replicate without any user help, meaning that they can spread really quickly and they exploit weaknesses. So, viruses need the help of the user to constantly copy the file over, but worms do not need your input, it does it by itself. So, therefore, it's more dangerous. Then we've got Trojans. Now, Trojans are malware that is disguised as something that's legitimate software. Now, unlike viruses and unlike worms, Trojans do not replicate themselves. The users have to install them and not realize their hidden intentions. Then we have social engineering. Now, social engineering breaks down into 2 points: phishing and over the telephone. So, firstly, social engineering is just a way of gaining sensitive information or illegal access to networks by influencing people, usually the employees of large companies. Now, a common way of social engineering takes place over the telephone. Someone rings up an employee of a company and pretends to be a network administrator or somebody else within the organization. Now, the social engineer then gains the employee's trust and persuades them to disclose the confidential information, and this might even be personal, such as login details or sensitive company data. Now, another type of social engineering is phishing. Now, phishing is when criminals send email or text to people claiming to be from a well known business, for example, a bank or an online retailer. Now, the emails often contain links to spoof versions of the company's website, and then they request that the user update their personal information, for example, their password or their bank account details. And when the user inputs the data into the website, they're basically handing it over to the criminals who can then access their genuine account. Phishing emails, you've probably had them yourself, have been sent to thousands of people in the hope that at least one person will read that email, believe it's a truthful and legitimate content, and eventually fall for the trap. Now, many email programs, browsers, and firewalls have anti phishing features that will reduce the number of phishing emails received. And the final threat that you need to know about is called SQL injections. So, networks which make use of large databases, for example, Facebook, which has large long lists of people's login details, these are all vulnerable to SQL injection attacks. So, SQL stands for Structured Query Language. It's one of the main coding languages used to access information in databases. So, SQL injections are pieces of SQL that, when you type them into a website's input box, for example, the login for Facebook, it will then reveal sensitive information. Now, a website may allow you to view your account information as long as you enter your password into an input box. But if the website's SQL code does not have a strong enough input validation, then someone might be able to enter a piece of SQL code which will then allow them to access other people's account information as well as their own. Now let's move on to methods of prevention. The first being penetration testing. Now, penetration testing or pen testing is when organizations employ specialists to simulate potential attacks on their network. For example, they get a professional to act as if they were a hacker and try to hack the network. The whole aim is to identify possible weaknesses in a network security by trying to exploit them. And the results of the pen test are then reported back so that they can then build up what they had lost. The second is physical security. Now, this protects the physical parts of a network from either intentional or unintentional damage, for example, a fire, flooding, theft, vandalism, etc. So, this is things like locking, like physically locking computers to a desk, um, surveillance equipment, passcodes to restrict certain areas, and cameras, CCTV, etc. The next method of prevention is quite obvious: passwords. Passwords help prevent unauthorized users from accessing the network. They should be strong, they should contain many characters, use a combination of letters, and be changed regularly. When we're looking at the paper 2 content, you will see how that is important later. The next is user access levels. So this controls which part of the network different groups of users can access. For example, business managers are likely to have a higher access level, allowing them to access more sensitive data like pay information. They may also have right access to files that others can only read, and the ability to change employee access levels. User access levels can help limit the number of people with access to important data. This helps then prevent insider attacks or the chance of it being revealed to outside people. Anti malware. Anti malware software is designed to find and stop malware from damaging a network and the devices on it. Now, there are lots of different types of anti malware software, including antivirus programs, which isolate and destroy computer viruses. Companies can also use things like firewalls to block unauthorized access. Firewalls examine all data entering and leaving the network and block any potential threats. And the final prevention method, encryption. This is when data is translated into a code which only somebody with the encryption key can access, meaning unauthorized users are unable to read it. Now, encrypted text is called ciphertext, and while non encrypted data is called plain text. Now, encryption is essential for sending data over a network securely. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found it helpful, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I do a range of subjects on the GCSE channel, and my colleague does a range of subjects on the Noel for A-level channel. So thank you so much for watching, and see you soon.